Andrew Catalon of CBS Sports. Mr. Catalon, good morning.
Good morning, DA. I'm looking out my window here in Salt Lake at the beautiful mountain scenery, snow-capped mountains, nice little blue tint in them. It's a gorgeous day as we get set to watch 8 teams practice for the games in Salt Lake City tomorrow.
You've got a couple of interesting games here and interesting teams. I want to start with Kansas because the Jayhawks are a blue blood. I think a lot of people have the Jayhawks just by muscle memory advancing in the tournament, but they have had a totally broken year. Their best players out. They did not win the regular season Big 12 title for the first time in forever. Same thing with the postseason Big 12 championship, and some people think they're one and done. Could Kansas lose to 13-seeded Northeastern?
They could, but I think that for all the reasons that you just mentioned, Bill Self is going to have his team motivated and ready to go. I mean, they didn't win the regular season title for the first time since 2006. He's going to make them aware of that. I'm sure they already know that. They're a 4 seed, as you mentioned. They're usually a top 1 or 2. I think there's a lot of motivating factors that Bill Self has to get his team fired up. You're right. It's a different team. They start 4 freshmen. 2 of their most talented players are not going to play, either due to injury or because LeGerald Vick has taken a leave of absence. So it's a different Kansas team that Bill Self is bringing into the NCAA tournament. But keep in mind, if they do find a way to win their first 2 games, they'll be in the regionals in Kansas City, which is 40 miles from their campus. So I think there's a lot to play for here for Kansas in terms of motivation. Is Northeastern capable of winning? Sure they are. We've seen some upsets, every year this time of year we see these types of upsets. But I have a feeling this Kansas team is going to be pretty determined to find a way to get to Kansas City.
Yeah, it's been a sour season for the Kansas Jayhawks, but with a couple of wins, they find themselves in their backyard in Kansas City in the regional. The other game of the early session for you is Auburn and New Mexico State. And how about the Tigers' run in the SEC tournament? We saw Tennessee and Kentucky all season long and even LSU in the SEC. But how serious should we take a red-hot Auburn team that ended the season so well?
Yeah, I mean, they won 4 games in 4 days at the SEC tournament. They destroyed Tennessee in the SEC championship game. And when you look at this Auburn team, it's a 3-point bonanza. I mean, they are 4 threes away from 400 for this season. 400 3-pointers. And you look up and down their roster, and there's anyone on that team that can make them. So this is a dangerous Auburn team, but that said, they cannot take New Mexico State lightly. The Aggies have been in the NCAA tournament 3 years in a row. They've won 30 games. They won the WAC again. And they go like 12 deep with New Mexico State. So they're going to keep running bodies in and out. They're going to have some fresh bodies. So, look, Auburn is the more talented team. As long as they don't overlook them, you really like what you saw from Auburn at the SEC tournament.
Andrew Catalon joins us from CBS Sports. He's got the Salt Lake City pod coming up here in a couple of days. You've got the 1-seed Gonzaga taking on Fairleigh Dickinson. We know that 16 seeds never win this game except for UMBC last year, but there are worries by some that Gonzaga is the weakest number 1 seed out of the 4 number 1s. Let's just assume Gonzaga gets through Fairleigh Dickinson. Do you think the Zags are properly being credited as maybe one of the weaker number 1 seeds? Do we chop them up into the next round, or do we think that the Zags have Final Four potential?
I think they have Final Four potential. Obviously, I don't love the way they go into the tournament, as St. Mary's absolutely blitzed them and in the championship game of their conference on the West Coast. So, that's not a good sign going into the tournament. But I still think they're a Final Four team. They've got one of the best players in the country in Hachimura. They're tournament tested. They've been in this spot before. And I just feel like in this season of college basketball, there's no dominant team. Yes, Duke with Zion is the favorite. But if you watch the season, from start to finish, it's just I don't see like a great team. I don't see even a couple of really strong teams that could make a big run. I just feel like it's very wide open. There's a lot of parity. And to me, this is the type of year where Gonzaga can really go all the way. So, yes, don't love the way they go into the tournament, but I still think they're very capable of going to the Final Four.
Gonzaga is going to have to play a power conference team coming out of that game, either the ACC Syracuse or the Big 12's Baylor. That's the 8-9 game. A couple of years ago, Syracuse beat Gonzaga in the tournament, and I can't figure out our alma mater at all. At times this year, they played crisp and like stallions. Other times they played sloppy, slobbish, almost like pigs. And so what to figure when it comes to Syracuse against Baylor coming up?
Well, I don't think you're gonna have any swine on the plate here against Baylor, DA. As long as Tyus Battle plays, I think Syracuse is feeling really good about their chances because, you go back and you watch the Duke game in the ACC quarterfinals. I know you watched it, and without Tyus Battle, they were tied with Duke against Zion Williamson with midway through the second half. And I think that there was a lot of positives that Jim Boeheim took out of that. I think that gives the team a lot of confidence, knowing they could hang tough with which we just said is one of the best teams in the country, if not the best, without Tyus Battle. So if he's healthy, and all indications at this point in the week is that he is healthy, I think Syracuse is in a really good place going into the NCAA tournament. Now, if you want to skip ahead to the potential Gonzaga game in the second round, if you have SU beating Baylor and Gonzaga winning, there's so much is made of the Syracuse zone in the tournament, and teams don't have time to prepare, and it's a quick turnaround. I don't really buy into it all that much with this Gonzaga team. As you mentioned, they played each other a couple of years ago. Mark Few is a tremendous coach, and he goes way back with Jim Boeheim. He knows kind of ways that he can attack and what they did wrong the last time out. So I think that would be a great game if those two teams met. But obviously, Syracuse has to get by a tough Baylor team first.
Andrew Catalon joins us, CBS Sports. He's in Salt Lake to call the NCAA tournament. You've had some unbelievable moments that you've called in the NCAA tournament. Very memorably, Ron Hunter falling off of his stool, falling off of his chair as they won. What's your favorite March Madness call or moment that you have had?
That's the one. No, without a doubt. I mean, coming back to Salt Lake City is pretty cool because I was here 2 years ago when Northwestern won its first ever NCAA tournament game, and it was an awesome scene with all the purple in the stands, and then they had a great game against Gonzaga in the second round before Gonzaga pulled away late. So that was a really tremendous scene, and I'm happy to be back in Salt Lake because I have a feeling it'll be another great crowd. But yeah, in terms of a call, I mean, a guy falling off his stool as his son hits a three-pointer with 2 seconds to go is kind of hard to make up, and it was something I still think about. And I know it's funny, we had Georgia State last year in the NCAA tournament, and their coach Ron Hunter was all fired up that our broadcast crew was on the call again, but it didn't work this time. They didn't have as good of a run last year, but it was definitely a lot of fun in Jacksonville in 2015.
I saw a promo of all of the CBS announcers singing along with the CBS theme song, so I think you and I should do that. Pete the Body Bilotti, cue it up for us, huh? Hee-ha-hee-hoo,
Wow, that was a great hoomity-hee right there. Tremendous. With your mouth, I could really feel it on the other end of the phone. Tremendous job.
So the mountains are blue, they're crisp, they're looking good in the background as you get ready to call games tomorrow in Salt Lake, huh?
Can't wait. It's a beautiful setting out here, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun, DA. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
Can't wait to listen. Can't wait to watch. Andrew Catalon is on the Salt Lake games. Tomorrow's Auburn, New Mexico State, Kansas Northeastern, and then Gonzaga, Fairleigh Dickinson, and Syracuse and Baylor late. Cat, always good, buddy. Thanks so much.